Welcome back to Rank and File Sports. And before we get into the video, please make sure to like and subscribe so you can come back throughout the season to see all of our future content. Every week we're going to be going over our reactions to the previous week's game. Then we'll drop a top 25 on the next day. Our college football playoff predictions. We'll get out some games to look out for on Upset Watch, as well as our official predictions for the next week coming out every Friday, which is what this video is today. We'll go ahead and get it started off with TCU and Stanford, the only Friday night game that I have on here. Here's just a quick overview of how this is going to work every single week. I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win the game, as well as compare the ESPN spread to my own custom spread that I'll make for the game each week, and I'll update you every single week on how we're doing throughout the season. TCU at Stanford should be an interesting week 1 matchup on Friday night. The Frogs are favored by just about 10 points, minus 9.5 according to ESPN Bet. I think with the new head coach, Stanford's a tough team to predict. I've got them going around 3-9 this year. They could very well exceed my expectations. I like Stanford here plus 10.5, but I do think that TCU comes away with a road victory. We're going to continue going through these picks just based on the airtime of the game. So Clemson and Georgia is up next. This game's being played in Atlanta, and it was on our Upset Watch video. Georgia is favored by 13.5. It's definitely a tough spread to pick because it's tough to know how well Clemson's going to do. So that being said, I went ahead and took the dogs to win it. And the spread that I'm most comfortable with would be Clemson losing by anything within 21 points. I definitely think Georgia's going to make this one not super interesting, but Clemson will hang around for long enough that I don't think they'll get completely blown out, though a 21-point loss certainly wouldn't look that great. Penn State at West Virginia was another one of those games that was on Upset Watch. The line is set at Penn State minus 8 points. I do think the Nittany Lions will be able to get this one into double digits. I like Penn State by around 11 points or so, maybe more. I'm going to set it at Penn State minus 10.5. Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt. This really isn't a very good Vanderbilt team, and a lot of people are super high on Virginia Tech. 13 points seems kind of low to me. Virginia Tech has a ton of returning production. Maybe I'm overestimating them week 1, but I like the Hokies minus 20.5. Give me Tech by 3 touchdowns. FCS number 1 South Dakota State's going on the road to face FBS number 17 Oklahoma State. This one I think will be a sneaky good game. Another one that was on our upset alert. The Cowboys are favored by 9.5 points. I think it's going to be a close game. So I like South Dakota State to cover 2 touchdowns. South Dakota State plus 13.5. This one probably be kind of low scoring. I could see something like 34-21 Oklahoma State. It feels like it's going to be one of those games where both teams score a decent amount, not a ton. South Dakota State's going to keep it close. Colorado State at Texas is another kind of interesting game. Texas has lost multiple scholarship running backs to injury for the entire season. We'll have to see how they adjust week 1, and this is not a bad Colorado State team. So I think 32.5 is a pretty high spread. I like the Rams to keep it within 4 touchdowns. Give me Colorado State plus 27.5, but a Longhorns victory. Now this next game was really tough. Miami at Florida. It's a super tough game for the Canes to start out the year, and I've been flip-flopping on this one for a while. But in the end, I'm going to stick with my gut. I'm going with the preseason prediction of Florida getting the win. Super tight game, though, I think. ESPN has the line at 2.5 in favor of Miami. I'll go ahead and say Florida gets it done by at least 2 points. Next up is UNLV and Houston. This game I actually am going to go with UNLV. It's not really an upset, Houston's only favored by 2.5 points, so I guess technically picking the underdog. I wouldn't call it an upset though. I think UNLV is actually the better team here. It is a road game, which is going to make it tougher, but I like the Rebels by around 4 points against Houston. Texas A&M and Notre Dame is next. The Aggies have got the line 3 points in their favor. This is another one that I was really flip-flopping on. Super tough to pick this game, but I am actually going to go with Notre Dame on the road. I wouldn't call it an upset. They're the higher-ranked team, only 3-point underdogs. But I do like Notre Dame on the road here. I think it's going to be really close, which is basically why the spread's just Notre Dame straight up. So I do think that the Irish will be able to get a really close win at Kyle Field. Fresno State and Michigan. I think this one is going to be a sneaky good game. Michigan's dealing with a lot of stuff with their whole cheating scandal, and the NOA has been released to the school. I think they're dealing with a lot of things right now. The team has undoubtedly been distracted by this, regardless of what they're telling you. I feel like Michigan's not going to cover the spread here. 20.5 is a big number. I like Fresno State keeping this one within at least 2 scores, but the Wolverines will still get the win at home. Wyoming at Arizona State, I also think is going to be a pretty good game. Arizona State is 7-point favorites, but I'm going to go ahead and take Wyoming plus 4.5 here, and I am going to give them the win. I think it's going to be a pretty good game. I like Wyoming on the road here. I'm not super high on Arizona State. Wyoming's a solid Group of 5 team. I think they've got enough to get the win on the road. Next up is the Sunday night matchup, USC and LSU. This game is in Vegas, and it's another super tough one to pick. I was picking LSU preseason. I'm going to go ahead and take the Trojans now. I think it's going to be close. LSU's -4 right now. I like USC to either lose by a field goal or win this game. So give me USC plus 3.5. And I'm going to go ahead and take them straight up as well. Finally, we have Boston College and Florida State. Florida State had won against Georgia Tech last week. We might not have had to have this one on here, but they didn't, and I think a lot of people are going to pick Boston College to keep this one close. I'm really not super high on this Boston College team. I could see a scenario in which they are able to keep the game close, and it really just depends on Florida State having no idea what's coming. It's a new head coach for Boston College in Bill O'Brien, so it is going to be tough to play against his scheme, but in the end, I do think that Florida State is still a really talented team. I know that they lost last week to Georgia Tech, but I like the Seminoles here, and I'm going to go ahead and take them to cover the spread and a little bit more. I think that they bounce back from the Georgia Tech loss. Give me Florida State by 20. Looking at how we did last week, I did go 3-1 straight up. The only game that I missed was Florida State, which I did say I thought Georgia Tech was going to keep that one close. I set the line a lot lower than the normal betting line. I didn't quite think Georgia Tech was going to be able to win it, though, so that did surprise me just a bit. And as you can see, 0-4 against the spread last week. Unfortunately, we just missed last night's game with North Carolina and Minnesota by a half point. I had the Heels by 2.5. A lot of the other ones were close, closer than the ESPN spreads were to the favorites covering. But we did go 0-4. Hopefully we'll turn that around this week. I am going to shoot for about a 60% win rate against the spread for the season and around 75 for the straight up picks. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in our next video.